Our first question is, Raphael, how do we deal with the immigration problem in the United States when so many people are coming into our country?
It is very difficult from our perspective in the angelic realm to relate to what this is that you are speaking of. For when we perceive this or look at this, what we notice is that you have collectively agreed upon arbitrary lines, what you might call borders around the earth. And this creates a deep sadness in us, for you identify yourselves as separate. And although we talk to you often about that you are unified and that you are one, you have a difficult time truly understanding this as you recognize yourself to be separate from another. But in addition to that, you have applied that to the earth. And the earth is so sacred, and the earth is a magnificent and beautiful, welcoming planet that has invited all of you to dwell and to live upon her and to receive her blessings and her abundance and all that she has to offer, her sunlight and her waves and the birds and the singing and the wind and the vegetables and the fruit. And when we feel the earth and we tap into her and all of her bounty, she has no borders, for they were defined by humanity and by an idea that you are separate from something else. And so it is very difficult from our perspective to connect or to relate to what it is that you are asking for. It is that we also see that you think that you own land, and we kind of find this very funny in a sense. There's a lot of humor from the angelic perspective that you could own a part of the earth, that it is yours. And we understand that you have your homes and your dwellings, and you define a particular space as yours. But to define an entire geographical location as separate from another, in which you do not share it with compassion, is something unfathomable that we cannot even begin to discuss with you because we do not understand. And it is that right now you sit on a land that has a great abundance and much opportunity. Many of you are in that land that you talk about called the United States. And it is that others find themselves in places in which separation and division has become so strong that they are not able to sustain life in the way in which many of you are sustaining your life. And so they're seeking a different place. And although right now you sit in a place of enormous comfortability and you want to define your lines, that's my line and you don't come inside of my line, it is that the lines and the places of comfort are always shifting and changing. And so there might be a moment in time where there will be a change in which your line, of which you think is so magnificent and comfortable, may or may not be as comfortable as it is, and you are wanting to be somewhere else. And yet you may not be invited because there is a line there. And so we want you to remember that the earth is a God-given blessing. And it is for all of you to enjoy and to come together in peace and harmony. So we ask you to open your hearts in compassion for that and to invite others, perhaps that might be perceived as less fortunate, to also enjoy the bounty of a particular nation or land. And we understand that politically this may be difficult to understand, or that you might have ideas about how it is affecting certain things, or lifestyle or income or economy or so on. But if you pull away from all of that, we ask you to drop into the vibration of the earth and in the human heart of compassion, and to see the larger perspective, because many of those who are seeking to cross that line or boundary come not only with open hearts, but an ability to contribute to the whole in a way that cannot always be perceived at this time. And if you go back in time or history, all of you at some moment or time perhaps shifted from the place in which you were originally brought, or the genetics of your DNA was created, to a different land or a different place, whether that was willingly or unwillingly. So it is, some of you have come from places in which you were taken as slaves, and some of you have ancestors that have come over the sea, and some of you have left where it is that you are now to go somewhere else. So we're all migrating and shifting and changing, and as you begin to recognize each other as one being of light, the boundaries and the lines will begin to blur. And as they blur and you begin to see each other in your divinity with an open heart of compassion, your ability to heal conflict and to release the vibration of war will begin to lift. And you will move into a place in which you see one another as the divine beings that you are. So we ask you to just open your hearts with compassion and to break down the barriers or the lines that you may have created, not perhaps ones that are so strong in the sand as along the border that you are speaking of, but any border that you have created in your own life, that this is mine. Just like when a child has a toy and they grab it and they say, it is mine, perhaps that vibration or energy got passed on as it was part of a learning tool and an identity of recognizing self into the collective. And we ask all of you to move into contemplation and to perhaps perceive where it is that you have created a line that is imaginary and that is not a place in which you are sharing, or that you feel entitled to something that you have decided is yours, that is part of the collective whole. Whether that to be a piece of property or an understanding, we find it fascinating that you've designated the shoreline or certain places that only certain others can go and enjoy, or that you can enter into a certain place unless you have dollars, and which all the earth and its beauty is to be shared and to be enjoyed by any being that has breath, for they simply by the divine breath that carries through their lungs allows them to participate and be a part of the earth without division.